The anime begins with a group of students celebrating their high school graduation, all except one named Mirai. After class, this boy goes to a store and tries to steal a melon bread, but in the end, he doesn't dare to do it. Without saying a word, he then goes up to the roof of a building, stands on the edge, and looking at the city, he says it's time to die. After this, he lets himself fall into the void, but when he thinks he's about to hit the ground, an angel catches him in its arms, saving him from imminent death. Mirai, shocked, thinks he's already dead and that the angel is taking him to heaven, but the angel tells him it saved him and shows him how people continue with their lives. The protagonist asks to be allowed to die, but the angel tells him it came to make him happy and offers him hope to live. The angel tells him he has special powers and offers him angel wings, as well as the ability to get the love of anyone he wants. After this, the angel makes him choose between both options. Mirai asks for both jokingly, but the angel accepts. Mirai doesn't believe him, so he tries to leave, but then the angel splits his bow into two and throws it at him. Mirai tries to remove it, but the angel tells him he can't until he decides to become a new god. The angel excitedly asks him to try his wings. Mirai, disheartened, makes an effort and asks his wings to appear. Giant angel wings come out of his back, surprising him. The girl reassures him that no one can see or touch them. Later, the angel tells him he can go wherever he wants without limits with his wings, and he needs to try the red arrow. Mirai questions how an angel can talk about manipulating people, so he calls her a demon. The angel denies the existence of demons and says they would only exist in people's hearts. She explains that his uncles murdered his family out of greed, making it look like an accident. The angel recommends him to use the red arrow with them to make them tell the truth. Mirai flies to his house and finds his aunt alone, smoking a cigarette. Mirai, disguising his anger, enters and his aunt orders him to bring a lighter because hers doesn't work anymore. The protagonist wants to ask her something, but she silences him and calls him trash after this. Mirai decided to take out his red arrow and stabbed it into his aunt, causing her to fall to the ground abruptly. When she gets up, she runs directly towards the protagonist, begging for forgiveness and saying that she loves him very much. In response, Mirai pushes her away and asks her if she and her uncle killed his family. Upon hearing this, the woman starts crying and confesses that she opposed it, but her husband insisted and she ended up accepting. She then reveals that she had planned everything. At that moment, her uncle enters the house and the woman blames him for everything, revealing that Mirai's grandfather had a huge fortune, so his uncle planned to kill the whole family so his wife could inherit the fortune. The only reason Mirai survived was because when his father activated the bomb in the car, Mirai had gone back home to get a drawing he had forgotten. Guided by the arrow, the woman tries to attack her husband. Mirai asks them why they left him alive. In response, his aunt shouts that they only adopted him for more money. Then, his uncle slaps her to silence her and pushes her to the ground, starting to beat her. Mirai kneels down and starts crying, screaming that they should die for their actions. Hearing this, his aunt, guided by the arrow of love, pushes her husband away, grabs a knife from the kitchen, and stabs him in the neck. Mirai tries to call an ambulance, but his angel stops him, saying it's not necessary as his aunt is already dead. Suddenly, another angel descends from the sky and takes his aunt's soul to the other world. Then, the blood from his aunt's body spreads, reaching the protagonist's hand. He has a memory of his mother being kind to him when he was a child, which makes him scream in gratitude for being alive. Hearing him, the angel extends her wings and shines, telling him her name is Nas and that she came to make him happy. 3 days later, his uncle testified in court that his wife had committed suicide, but Mirai still wasn't happy as he had no money. Thanks to the arrow, he gets an apartment, and with the wings, he can steal food. However, he realizes he can't be happy if he only steals and deceives to live. He wants a normal life with friends, school, marriage, and a happy family. He says he needs money for that, and Nas suggests killing his uncle and his children for the inheritance, but Mirai refuses to kill anyone. The angel recommends activating the second ring of his bracelet, revealing a white arrow like Cupid's, which, when stabbed into someone, will kill them with a 100% probability. Mirai wonders why an angel has this, and Nas says it's to prevent the suffering of those about to die. She explains that only special rank angels and God have this arrow. Mirai asks about God, and the angel tells him there are 12 God candidates besides him, and they each have an angel. Among these 13 candidates, one will be chosen as the next god. Nas tells him that if he doesn't become god, they will take away his wings and arrows. Mirai doesn't believe he can become a god, but the angel says if he wins, he might be happy. Until Mirai remembers a moment with his mother as a child, where she told him that to be happy, he must be surrounded by happy people. With this in mind, Mirai decides not to use the white arrow to kill people and also decides to use the red arrow to make his uncle surrender to the police. He will seek his own happiness without having to become a god. With more calm, Mirai sits down to eat while watching TV. And there he observes a man who boasts of having many women, but what surprises him is that above him there is an angel observing him closely. The man is a low-grade comedian and claims to have 5 girlfriends. There, Nas tells the protagonist that he can control 14 people at once with the red arrow. This makes Mirai wonder if the red arrow can be dodged, and Nas tells him that it cannot be dodged unless he uses the wings because they are very fast. Additionally, the effect of the red arrow only lasts 33 days, and it can only be pierced once per person. In a scene change, we see the comedian surrounded by women inside a car, laughing while he takes out his red arrow when suddenly a man disguised as a superhero opens the door and attacks him using the white arrow, killing him instantly. This causes the effect of the red arrow to disappear, and all the girls get scared and run away. The next day, Mirai submits the form to go to university, and on his way back, he sees news that the comedian died. Days pass and the protagonist passes the entrance exam. Nas is happy because besides this, the protagonist manages to make his uncle surrender to the police and give him all his money, allowing him to buy an apartment for himself. But it seems that the protagonist is not happy with his life as he is worried about the death of the other candidate for God. Then a giant TV shows news of a bank robbery where hostages were being killed every 5 minutes when suddenly a person in disguise calling himself Polyman arrives flying to the scene. People believe he is a superhero, but Mirai discovers he has angel wings that only he can see, realizing he is another candidate for God. Seeing this, the soldiers go on the defensive, and Polyman decides to use his red arrow on all of them, then goes to the thieves and stops them. The first thief approaches, and Polyman uses his red arrow on him, but another one with a shotgun appears, and when he's about to shoot, Polyman flies and dodges it, causing the first thief to receive the shot. When another shot comes out, Polyman dodges it again to quickly move towards the shotgun thief and kill him using the white arrow. Then he frees the hostages and announces himself on national television as a superhero. Polyman tells the media that the death of the thief was an accident and that he couldn't contain his power, but Mirai knows that arrow has a 100% chance of killing someone. Afterward, Polyman says he comes from space and is here to defeat 12 villains, referring to the other candidates for God, and also mentions that he has already defeated one of them. Upon hearing this, Mirai quickly asks his angel to leave him because Nas being by his side is like shouting to everyone that he is a candidate. In the night, the protagonist asks Nas to remove him from the list of candidates, but Nas says he can't because if he takes away his wings and arrows, he will die because they are a symbol of hope, and it's like abandoning the hope of living. And he tells him that's what God asked for since he's looking for someone who is discontent with the world and wants to change it. Then they explain to us that angels of special rank grant wings and red and white arrows. Those of the first rank only grant wings and the red arrow, while those of the second rank can only grant wings or red arrows. He also mentions that an angel can rise to special rank, but can also fall to the second rank based on their behavior. After this, Nas advises him not to go out tomorrow if he doesn't want to oppose other candidates, but Mirai decides to gather courage and attend his first day of university. On the other hand, we see Polyman, but without his costume, and he appears to be a student with white hair. The plan is to maintain this facade as a normal student while he kills the other candidates. The next day, Nas becomes happy to see Mirai excited about going to school and recommends that he shoot a red arrow at a girl named Saki, who is the girl Mirai likes and who is also his childhood friend. She will also attend the same university as him. There, Nas tells him that even though the red arrow is temporary, if he manages to make this person fall in love with him while using the arrow, after 33 days, that love will become true and eternal. However, Mirai still refuses to use the arrow. As the protagonist walks to school, he sees an angel above all the students. He tries to calm down and act like a normal student, but the angel still notices, quickly flying right in front of him. The angel confronts him, saying he reacts very nervously upon seeing him, and then reveals that he is the angel of a student right behind him. At that moment, when he looks and turns, he sees Saki, his childhood friend, who takes out a red arrow and pierces him in the heart. In that moment, without control over his words, he declares his love for Saki in front of her. Seeing the protagonist in front of her, she realizes he is very sad, so she takes him by the shoulders and tells him she would do anything for him. After this, Saki's angel asks him to leave and meet secretly at Saki's house. Hearing this, Mirai spreads his wings and flies away quickly. After a few hours, Saki arrives, and her angel asks her to ask the protagonist about Nasa's rank. Mirai tells her he is of special rank, so he has the white arrow like the wings. Upon hearing this, Saki's angel confronts him, believing he is polyman, but the protagonist denies it and asks Mirai to be Saki's wings, as she does not have any. Mirai accepts without hesitation. They both hold hands to practice flying, and, holding each other's angel bracelets and hugging from behind, they begin to fly together. They remember a moment when they were children and used to spend a lot of time together since their parents were friends before Mirai's parents died. With this, the protagonist decides to take Saki to a very high place where they can see the world from above. Back in her room, she receives news on her phone. Saki reads it and says that Polyman stopped a criminal. Upon hearing this, Saki's angel says that Polyman worries him because he plans to kill all the candidates. In that moment, impelled by the arrow, Mirai decides to go to the television to kill Polyman because he wants to protect Saki due to the influence of the red arrow. But he is stopped by Nas, who tells him that he is being deceived by Saki's angel, whose name is Revel. Nas explains that if a candidate dies, their wings and arrows are transferred to the killer candidate, and Revel planned for Mirai to transfer his wings to Saki. Saki seems to regret this, so she also stops him. After this, Revel proposes that they collaborate together, but Mirai refuses because Revel tried to send him to die with Polyman. There, Revel defends himself, saying that once the effect of the arrow ends, Mirai could try to attack Saki. But Nas tells him that is impossible because the protagonist was already in love with Saki long before she shot the red arrow. After this, both angels agree to collaborate together and decide that it is best for them to live together until a new god is decided, as it could be dangerous for them to be separated and alone. The next day, we see Polyman stopping another criminal, then saying a few words to the press before returning to his mansion. Later, he comments that he is tired of dealing with criminals and prefers to go directly to eliminate the remaining 11 candidates since it had been a month since he announced on television to the other candidates and no one had looked for him yet. Then we see that Mirai is tied to a chair to test if he really loves Saki without the arrow. This makes Mirai happy because even though he no longer has the effect of the arrow, he managed to tell Saki how he feels. Besides, he decides to accept that Polyman is a threat and they have to stop him. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Polyman started a live broadcast. He announces that he wants to talk peacefully with the other candidates and allows him to rent a whole studio to do so. He tells them that the date is the day after tomorrow at 3 in the afternoon. He also comments that he chose that place because it has no roof and wants to make everything as easy as possible for any candidate to go there. But still, Mirai, Saki, and their angels know it's a trap. There, Revel tells them that most of the candidates are Japanese because it is a country with many suicides. But even knowing that it is a trap, the day arrives and Mirai and Saki decide to go to the stadium without their angels so that Polyman does not suspect them, as they want to see what will happen. Inside, they see civilians, journalists, and even television helicopters waiting for Polyman. And above all, the protagonist manages to see a couple of angels, and there he realizes that candidates have also come. On the other hand, we see that Revel and Nas are watching the stadium broadcast from Saki's house and are waiting for any attack. Then, a civilian starts the countdown to 3 in the afternoon, and when it reaches 0, Polyman appears in the center of the stadium, and 2 other candidates also come out, wearing similar suits. One of them aims his red arrow at Polyman, but he does not move or take out his wings, and taking advantage of the fact that he does not move, the candidate in the blue suit throws the arrow at him. But the arrow does not pierce him because it seems that he already had a red arrow stuck in him. In light of this, Mirai concludes that this is not Polyman and only someone using his disguise. Then the blue and yellow candidates confront the imposter and tell him that he is not the real Polyman, casting doubt on all the spectators. After that, the blue and yellow candidates stand back to back and shout for the original Polyman to appear. At that moment, they remember how they became candidates when they failed to get into university and decided to take their lives together using pills until two angels arrived and proposed to them to be candidates to God. So they decided to become the new God to make each other happy. Back in the present, the blue candidate explains that the red arrow only has a range of 31 meters, so since the stands are very far away, it is impossible to shoot from there without being hit if Polyman is in the center of the stadium. Also, the reason they are back-to-back is to avoid surprise attacks. At that moment, the original Polyman appears on one of the stadium's televisions and begins to talk about the arrows and wings, confronting the blue and yellow candidates' strategy. We see that this confuses many of the normal civilians. Then, the blue candidate takes the Polyman imposter hostage and threatens to get information out of him, but when no one was looking, a little girl floats slowly from the stands and shouts at the blue and yellow candidates to please protect her as she is very afraid of Polyman. Blue accepts, but with the condition that she allows herself to be hit by a red arrow, and the girl agrees and approaches them, but when the real Polyman was about to arrive, he flew towards her and stabbed her in the back with the red arrow before taking her away. In that moment, Blue asks for help from the other candidates hidden among the crowd, but with the condition of shooting them with the red arrow to gain their trust. However, we see that nobody responds. After a few moments, two candidates wearing pink and green arrive at the scene and are willing to join them. So, the blue and yellow candidates move to where they are to shoot them with the red arrow. Once reunited, the stadium's television turns back on, and on it appears the kidnapped girl, announcing that the Polyman there was not real and that the true one had always been in the center of the stadium pretending to be an imposter. Then, Polyman kills the blue candidate with the white arrow and shoots the yellow one with the red arrow. Afterwards, it seems that the pink and green candidates were nothing more than actors that Polyman used to distract the blue and yellow candidates, allowing him to switch places with the imposter Polyman when they went to shoot arrows at the pink and green ones. When the blue candidate died, his angel tried to take his wings and rings discreetly, but Polyman noticed this and told him that by law, his wings and rings belong to him. So, the angel ends up giving them to him, and then he takes Blue's soul to heaven. After this, Polyman announced the second phase of the event, and we see that they handcuffed the girl and the yellow candidate together. Polyman asks them to die, but since they feel no guilt for something they would have done to compensate for their deaths, they refuse. Seeing this, Polyman aims his white arrow at them, which causes Yellow to panic and try to fly away from the place, but as he is chained to the girl, the chains start hurting his hand. Then, Polyman throws his white arrow at Yellow, eliminating him instantly. After this, he takes out his white arrow again and this time aims it at the girl, who starts screaming and asking for help. This puts Mirai in conflict because he wants to help her, but he cannot because if he does, they will discover that he is also a candidate. At that moment, the girl's angel arrives and begs Polyman not to eliminate the girl. Then, he tells him to give him a good reason not to eliminate her, and seeing that he cannot convince him, he screams for help from the other candidates in the stadium. Then, we see that Mirai observes Saki, and she starts crying to stop all this, and in a fit of anger, Mirai activates his rings and is about to take out his wings, but he stops when he sees Nas flying towards the stadium. At that moment, a mysterious person takes a photo of Mirai and Saki when they were watching the sky. Without looking at the protagonist, Nas tells him not to move because Polyman will not kill the girl until another candidate comes to her rescue. After this, Nas talks to Polyman and tells him that no candidate will come out, so it's better to leave the girl alone. Then, Polyman tells him that if nobody is going to come out, he no longer needs the girl and shoots her with a white arrow, eliminating her. After that, Nas tells him that it doesn't matter who dies as long as he wants his candidate to be happy. In response, Polyman tells him that he will be the new god, but Nas affirms that in the worst case, he will make his candidate kill him. Then, he shouts at Mirai to blend in with the crowd and leave. After that, everyone leaves the stadium, including Polyman, and at night, Mirai feels terrible for not being able to save anyone, while Saki admits to hating Polyman and shares her pain with the protagonist. Later, Mirai comes to the conclusion that Polyman must be eliminated, but he doesn't dare to do it and can't even bring himself to hate him. After this, he remembers a moment when he was with his family in the park, where his father tells him not to hate others because it won't allow him to be happy. Back in the present, Saki says it would be a good idea to collaborate with other candidates who also hate Polyman. At that moment, they are interrupted by someone who is outside the room on the balcony. Mirai opens the window, and it's a candidate who seems to have come voluntarily to speak with them. The protagonist becomes defensive, and the man tells him they can shoot him with the red arrow so they can trust him. At that moment, Nas tells Mirai that it's not necessary to shoot him with the red arrow since she can tell if he's lying or not, and she says he's telling the truth. So they let him in and give him a towel to dry off as it was raining outside. When they are comfortable, the man tells them he has terminal cancer and mentions that his remaining 3 months of life were already up. But when he was about to die, an angel appeared to him, inviting him to be a candidate, thus postponing his life until a new god is decided. However, he didn't want to postpone his life so much and instead used the red arrow to get 200 million for his wife and children. Instead of becoming a god, he devised a way to kill Polyman so that the next god would be chosen fairly and thus secure a happy future for his family. So now he's looking for trustworthy candidates for god. He tells them that he used the red arrow on the best 14 detectives to find them, and they found Mirai and Saki at Polyman Stadium. After this, he asks if they are willing to be god, but before this, Saki and the protagonist deny wanting to do it, and we see that the man already expected this response. Mirai agrees to collaborate with him on the condition that he undergoes his treatment since he believes that dying would be selfish and negatively affect his family, to which the man agrees. At the same time, we see that Polyman is looking for ideas to use all the arrows he has collected since he discovered that he cannot make someone with the red arrow kill for him. In a change of scene, the man tells them his name is Nanato and introduces his angel called Barrett, who is a first-level knowledge angel. Then they all speculate that Polyman's angel could be Misa, who is a special desire angel. Nanato tells them that he works as a clothing designer and then takes out a notebook with designs for possible suits so that they do not reveal their identities while fighting Polyman. After that, Nanato flies back home. The next day, we see Polyman, and it is revealed that his real name is Kanade, and he is currently in his elite school where he has a friend named Misu. Then they go to see girls from other grades and start looking at a cute girl. Kanade asks his friend what he would choose if he could have a wish, and his friend replies with a lot of money, but Kanade doesn't like this answer and asks for something bigger. His friend then tells him to eliminate weapons and nuclear technology or make all the ugly girls disappear. Kanade seems to like the latter response, accepting his wish. Then his friend asks him the same question, and Kanade replies that he would choose something impossible like bringing a dead person back to life. Then they realize that all the girls have left, so Kanade decides to practice his arrow shooting, even though no one else can see them, and discovers that if he connects the red and white arrows, his range doubles to 60 meters. At the end of the classes, Kanade flies back home with a bouquet of roses, where he has the lifeless body of his younger sister in perfect condition. In front of her, he leaves the flowers and wishes her a happy birthday. Don't forget to subscribe to watch the next part. I'll be waiting for you in the next video. See you.